So one of the last things we're going to do as part of this initial clean out of the car is just, I'm going to actually vacuum out this trunk. It's really dirty, but I also wanted to show you that kind of a cool feature of these older cars. A lot of times they'll have these removable covers in the bottom of the trunk. And what's really nice about this is you can even use some soap and water in here and you can wash it all out and it'll all drain out. So kind of a cool little setup there. But I'm going to go ahead and get started and get this cleaned up, get it vacuumed out first, and then I'll likely use some soap and water on it as well and some cleaner to get it real clean. Once we get it over that pump, then we got it. So now that we've got the car cleaned out, what we're going to do is we're going to do kind of an initial mechanical assessment. We're going to lift the car up. We've backed it out of the garage, and we're going to look for any leaks. Make sure there aren't any leaks anywhere. If they are, we're going to make note of them because those are problem areas we're going to have to fix. And I can tell right away just from the car sitting the last few days, there is a drip here on the floor in the back. In the center kind of tells me it's most likely the pinion seal, so we'll confirm that when we get it back up in the air. But that's what we're going to go do now, is lift it up. And I like to power wash and clean the car underneath before I start doing a lot of work. It just makes it easier. You don't get stuff falling in your eyes, that kind of stuff, right? So, but you don't want to wash away any signs of leaks or repairs that are needed either. So first thing, like I said, we're going to look to see, do we see any leaks of anything? Then we'll go ahead and clean underneath the car so it makes it easier for us to work on it. Okay, so to do a good inspection under the car and to do a good cleaning under the car, we're going to lift it up like I said, but I'm also going to take the tires off when I do that because it just gives us more access to underneath the car. So I don't want to jack it up and then try to loosen the tires and rims because then they'll just free spin. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually just break loose these lug nuts, so when I get it up in the air they're loose, then I can take them off and take the tires and rims off. My son Alex, he's already sprayed the lug nuts with a little WD-40. Don't know how long this car has sat or how long it's been there. WD-40, any type of penetrating oil, great stuff. And actually, the more time you give it, the better it works. So if you know you're going to take something apart and it's really rusted, then the farther ahead you spray that thing with some penetrating oil, the better off you are. I mean, it's all just good. So, but this has been on there for a couple hours. I think we'll be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and break loose the lug nuts, and then we're going to lift the car up.
That's funny. Some of these are kind of loose. Other ones not so much.
Okay, so just a little bit about safety. You always want to use stands to hold the weight of the car. So never use the jack as a stand because the hydraulics could fail. So you use a jack to lift it and jack stands to hold the car. So I always know you got to look up too, where are your lift points for your vehicle? So the steering wheel is tight because as you move that, it moves the input shaft down here at the rag joint. So those are moving in unison. But what's happening is although those are moving, the input shaft, nothing's moving on the output until you turn it quite a bit. So the slop is inside the gearbox itself, the power steering box. That's how you know, because it's tight up at the top and we're moving that input shaft. You can see where that rag joint is, it's turning. But then it's got quite a bit of play. It'll turn quite a bit before it wants to then start to move the steering. So the play is in the box itself. And that's what we'll wind up doing, is replacing that steering box. Want to make sure that steering's nice and tight. Hello my friends, it's Gary here in my garage. Got the Buick Riviera. We actually put it up on car dollies. It's easier to push around. But we have completed the inspection of the car, the initial inspection I'll say, right? So as we cleaned underneath the car, we also, before we did that, we gave it an initial inspection, and we found that there's several issues underneath the car we're going to want to address. There's a dent in the gas tank. It really doesn't affect the performance of it at all, but aesthetically it doesn't look good, so we're gonna try to repair that. We'll try to get that pulled out. There is a leak in the pinion seal. We're gonna fix that. There was just one drop in the middle of the transmission pan. Didn't see any fluid above that, so I just suspect that the pan gasket's bad, and we're gonna change all the fluids anyway, so we'll fix that when we change the transmission fluid. But it runs and drives great. The engine has absolutely zero leaks. But we have decided we're going to pull the engine just to clean it, prep it and paint it and make it look good, make it look like new. Because we've got a numbers matching car, and because the interior is actually in really good shape, we didn't find a single rip or a tear in the seats. They're a turquoise. It's kind of growing on me. If I purchased the car originally, I'd be honest, I probably wouldn't have chose this color, but because it's an original numbers matching car, we're going to stick with the original paint and the original interior and just make it all original. It's a beautiful car, and I think with fresh paint, this color will look great. So there are a few, kind of fitment issues, not uncommon for older cars in GM. The quality they didn't have, competition overseas, that kind of stuff, really back in the 60s. So they were just putting them together and sending them out. But we'll make sure all the panels, you can see maybe there's just a little bit of a height difference gap here. We'll fix for that. This door is sagged a little bit. These doors are ginormous. I mean, if you look at the length of this, and again, being all steel, the thing weighs a ton, and it's very common for the pins to wear out on the hinges, and so you can see how when I open the door it tends to drop a little. that's because of those pins. And so we'll replace those pins. Just, you know, common, typical things you would expect out of a 50-year-old car, but, you know, overall, we ran a magnet around the whole thing. There's, you know, it sticks everywhere. There's really, you know, if there's Bondo, it's minimal. I can tell it has been painted once, but it looks to be real solid. Of course, we'll verify that and correct anything that may be wrong with the body as well. But again, a really straight, solid, clean car. We're real excited to have it and to be able to work on it. There was a little bit of play in the steering. We think we've identified that to the steering gear itself. We'll validate that, but we'll likely show you how we validate that and when we do the repair. But again, we're going to film all these repairs for you so you can see, you know, what we're doing and how we do it. And looking forward to having you guys with us as we really work and fix up our first project car. So I've done cars my whole life, but I've never done them to just save and kind of sell to somebody. But that's going to be the long-term plan here. So looking forward to doing all this with you and hope you join us. These are the two most accessible, easiest to get to bolts. Those are the ones that I've sprayed with the WD-40. And hopefully that WD-40 works and, you know, we get those suckers broke loose, son.